Welcome to another episode of Planet Transit, where we will talk about Skyline Honolulu and discuss how it could be extended. This time we'll be discussing a possible extension through the Salt Lake region of Honolulu. As you all know, I had to take regular breaks from video editing, especially as this is my senior year in high school and I have other things to do in life. The channel has grown since then, so thanks to all the viewers and subscribers of Planet Transit. As I would have now covered every potential planned Skyline extension, the next video coming out shortly will be a new series regarding rail called the Hawaii High-Speed Rail, where I will talk about my own ideas on how to improve public transit throughout the state, obviously culminating in revolutionary inter-island high-speed rail. In fact, even if my idea of high-speed rail is ludicrous for Hawaii, I will still show you how public transit can be improved overall throughout the state. The first episode in the series will be a new game-changing second Skyline system linking the North Shore and couple it to the historic Honolulu City Center at Alapai Transit Center and more places in central Honolulu and more. For this series, I will discuss how rail systems can be built on other islands like the Maui monorail, and this will culminate in discussing my idea on potential inter-island high-speed rail. Returning to Skyline future extensions, we will discuss the planned extension through the Salt Lake region, show the initial concept, my own idea, especially as it relates to the new second Skyline system / Hawaii high-speed rail. Originally, when Skyline was initially planned in the early 2000s, Skyline was originally going to have two services going through Moanalua, one that would head to the airport and one faster line through Salt Lake. They also plan to have an Arizona Memorial Station on the airport alignment as well, and in fact, Hart built it sort of as seen here, where you can clearly see where the platforms for this station may be built. Of course, in 2008, when they finally started cost-cutting the original concept to pieces, making Skyline start from East Kapolei and end at Ala Moana Center, and they also switched to light metro, reduced speeds, and wanted to have the Skyline not go to the airport and only go through Salt Lake for the sake of cost. Although officially known to be recession-related, they would change to the airport alignment in 2009, possibly due to the fact that a 2050 airport line or an airport people mover, only possible with an expensive underground people mover due to military suburbanization, or even worse, a airport bus LaGuardia style where this dumb ideas and a direct airport connection sooner made the most sense. So last they shelved the Salt Lake extension and tried to save some travel time, Arizona Memorial Station as well, to be built in the future, and allowed or supposed to have the existing Skyline alignment to be built to have the extension and infill station to be built more conveniently in the future. The communities of our Skyline extension will be covering encompasses the Salt Lake region, which contains Aliamanu and Moanalua. These communities have a combined population of 62,813 people. This higher population can be thanks to the higher densities through condos seen in Aliamanu. Other than such communities being served, this extension will impact greatly one-seat Skyline travel times, especially in places where Skyline wasn't planned to go, reducing journeys that go between Aloha Stadium and Middle Street by 10 minutes. This would be through a more direct alignment, only stopping at 1 or 2 stations rather than 3 to 4 stations. One station being very busy and through a winding and slow alignment. If you haven't watched my previous video, here's the alignment types. Center median. Obviously, this would be above the center of roadways, especially wide arterial roads with room for medians, or already having medians like on Kamehameha Highway in Pearl City or Farrington Highway in Waipahu. Elevated greenfield. Like the name suggests, it's new elevated alignments through undeveloped forestry or farmland. Mauka shift. If you never heard about this before, it is an elevated alignment choosing to intentionally go on the side of a road. This is often used whenever it's convenient, when paralleling smaller roads, or in curves, or right-of-way is prohibited to choose a center median route, like overhead utilities only on one side of the road, or very constrictive alignments. This name comes from the rail's alignment shift to the Mauka or northern shoulder of Dillingham Boulevard portion of the currently under construction city center rail section to avoid relocating too many utilities. When I say Mauka here, it may or may not be going towards the Mauka side. It may just be discussing what I said earlier. The West Shore will have lots of Mauka shifts. In some parts, going from the left to the right of the roadway to avoid relocating as many things like this, depending where it is. Stratobent. This is the use of stratobent columns to better navigate constrictive geometry, often used by curbs, phase termination stations, or constrictive alignments that cannot use Mauka shifts or center medians at all. And we're going to add a new alignment that you've been all requesting for, or the one that has been not used as widely, at grade. As the name suggests, it's taking the rail on the ground. However, being an automated system, grade crossings are impossible, and we'll have to make cars go under or over the alignment, and if you want to save money, termination of many roads. Let's transition right into the currently planned Salt Lake Extension alignment. I am right here at the Aiea Cemetery. You can see the skyline alignment right above us. Right here, you can see the skyline is on a stratobent configuration. These stratobents are here only for the Salt Lake Extension with a flyover, similar to the Belmont flyover being built for the Chicago CTA, which is actually going to be added on the stratobent to the left. And on the right, this area has been safeguarded for another single track flyover for the Salt Lake Extension. It is easier to explain by actually being on a Skyline train going from Aloha Stadium. I skipped the train starting and you will see the stratobent, and here is an illustration to visualize how it could look like. Next, we will go through the Aloha Stadium Development District. This is where we might face severe roadblocks and maybe the hardest portion of the alignment depending on how Aloha Stadium will be developed. Although the final design is not chosen, there's lots of potential designs that could inhibit this part of the extension through developments becoming physical roadblocks, just like how Ala Moana built part of their shopping center over important potential rail alignments. To prevent another Ala Moana scenario, I would like you to advocate safeguarding the Salt Lake alignment by going to the community input meetings and to ask your lawmakers and Aloha Stadium stakeholders, such as setting up a policy framework to allow for this extension to one day be built through this community. The Skyline flyover will converge into a second Aloha Stadium station. Whatever NASAD will design, this station will be centrally located in the Aloha Stadium District, serving the now existing Aloha Stadium District and Aloha Stadium. Next, we will head to the center of Salt Lake Boulevard. We will then go into a series of 50 plus feet viaducts to traverse the Makalapa crater in grades below 3%. I'm here on a section of Salt Lake Boulevard where, as you can see, there is construction going on. This is due to the Salt Lake Boulevard widening project. This is because, as you can see, this is the only section of Salt Lake Boulevard where it only has 2 lanes as compared to 4 plus in the other portions. You're probably asking me, why am I talking about a supposedly car-centric project? Isn't adding lanes induced demand? Yes, adding lanes is induced demand, but I am here because looking at this cross-section diagram of the project, you can see that utilities will be cleared so that this extension can be built more easily. This is great as there will be less utility relocations needed to build the extension, especially knowing that utility relocations can be much harder than building guideway. I am looking at you, Dillingham Boulevard. In addition to this section will include proper biking infrastructure, like having it built with world-class cement protection. This is ironic that a project giving more lanes to cars has more innovation in building biking infrastructure than an innovative multi-billion-dollar driving alternative. Next, we will have a station in Ala Lilikoi in Aliamanu. This station will serve the dense portions of Salt Lake in Moanalua and Aliamanu. This will also connect Aliamanu Middle School, Moanalua Military Reserves, and the Salt Lake Shopping Center. We will then continue to head down Salt Lake Boulevard, then head on to Pukuloa Street, then cross the Moanalua Stream, parts of Port Shafter, Then we will cross over the Middle Street interchange on a balanced cantilever viaduct to then connect to the now existing Middle Street Skyline Station. In addition to this, the Arizona Memorial Station should be built if any form of Salt Lake extension concept comes to fruition. The Arizona Memorial Station will serve the Arizona Memorial, Halava View Apartments, and the headquarters for the Pacific Fleet. Let's talk them travel times. East Kapolei to Ala Moana Center. For 19 miles or 30.5 kilometers, it will now take around 31 minutes, 36.7 miles per hour or 59 kilometers per hour on average. With the Salt Lake extension, you can now go from Hawaii's largest gym to Hawaii's largest shopping center in around half an hour. Chinatown to Alalilikoi for 4.25 miles / 6.83 kilometers, it will take 8 minutes, 32 miles per hour or 51.2 kilometers per hour on average. Now let's get back to the Makaha to Koko Marina trip. Makaha to Koko Marina for 48.9 miles or 78.6 kilometers, it will now take 70 minutes, 36.68 miles per hour or 59 kilometers per hour on average. I am also going to explain my proposed Salt Lake alignment, which will be more catered for better community connections rather than express. Although this alignment will have travel times between Aloha Stadium and Middle Street the same and would cost the same as the airport alignment, this alignment should happen as the final Salt Lake extension, and I will explain why after. Starting from Aloha Stadium, the portion of the alignment will be the same. However, our first difference is that on the intersection of Salt Lake Boulevard and Bougainville Drive, we will add a station here. This station will serve Aliamanu, Foster Village, Radford High School, and Makalapa Elementary School. The nearby industrial complex, which includes Target, which should become a so-called Arts District redevelopment, and future military redevelopment. Between this station and Alalilikoi Station, things will stay the same as well as the rest of the Salt Lake Boulevard after the Alalilikoi Station. However, we will swerve to the left on the interchange of Pualoa Road, and near the Moanalua High School we'll have a station for Mapunapuna. This station will serve Moanalua High School through an in-campus entrance, surrounding high-density developments, Mapunapuna, and is close to Moanalua Gardens. For the people who come for things like the Hitachi tree, now can come with Hitachi trains. Moanalua High School may also have potential for development as well. Just like how the Mililani High School is planning to build teacher workforce housing on campus, Moanalua High School should build teacher workforce condos while putting the surface parking into a structure. This would result in giving lots of teachers equitable access to affordable housing. We will swerve right, transitioning onto the side of the H1 freeway. Head on to the right onto an alignment that is barely suitable for viaduct, and on the Funston Road interchange, have a station for Fort Shafter. This station will serve the Fort Shafter military base. Next, we will continue following H1 until reaching Middle Street. Then we will serve right onto Middle Street to have a station for Kalihi Valley. This station will serve the Upper Kalihi Valley and may one day be an interchange for a possible North Shore to Alapai Transit Center rail line if it comes to fruition. As part of the TOD for this station, I would like them to see them cap the H1 freeway between Middle Street and Ola Lane, especially as the Kalihi community deserves environmental justice for the H1 freeway being for decades a scar to the community. Although this idea would make the cap more expensive, it should have affordable mixed-use developments on it like the Capitol Crossing developments in Washington, D.C. It could be the first out of many potential H1 capping projects, but I will save more details on this to the next video. We will continue down to Middle Street to connect with the existing Skyline Station. What are the benefits of this alignment as compared to the official Salt Lake extension, especially as it will need a new EIS and more lengthy studies? This is because, as you remember, the Kalihi Valley Station may be an interchange for possible North Shore to Alapai Transit Center rail line, which may use a different specification of rail, much different from the Skyline we got, which could travel much faster speeds, even faster than a limited stop Skyline extension, and most people needing to go that fast is likely employees in the capital or trying to get into central Honolulu. In other words, we can have more stations and connections in this Salt Lake extension, potentially making transportation in Salt Lake better, provide adequate social equity for having the Skyline system go through Salt Lake, as well as boosting ridership for a potential North Shore to Alapai Transit Center rail line. I am going to talk about more details about the potential North Shore to Alapai Transit Center rail line in my next video, so please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for Planet Transit. Let's talk them travel times. Fort Shafter to KCC. For 9.59 miles or 15.4 kilometers, it will take around 18 minutes, 32 miles per hour or 51 kilometers per hour on average. Mapunapuna to Kapahulu Avenue. For 7.32 miles or 11.8 kilometers, it will take around 37 minutes, 32 miles per hour or 51 kilometers per hour on average. Waipahu Transit Center to Radford. For 6.63 miles or 10.7 kilometers, it will take around 25 minutes, 32 miles per hour or 51 kilometers per hour on average. Although it will not change true running travel times, my option also benefits due to the more connectivity for the military, as the Salt Lake region of Oahu has lots of military presence. This is beneficial as it can sort of force the military to transition to renewable energy while keeping social equity in regards to national defense. You might be saying what I'm talking about, especially as you're here because of Skyline extensions, not climate change in the military. The reason why I'm pointing this out is that most of the active personnel on the island often drive, especially knowing that many of them literally bring their cars here from the mainland. As a benefit from the military, you get to use the specialized gas stations like the Navy Exchange gas station to get gas at a reasonable cost. The issue is that much of the gas from these gas stations mostly come from fuel tanks like the one in Red Hill, which, as you probably know, if not maintained well, can leak. In addition to this contributes to much of the pollution in Hawaii. The military personnel population being around 250,000, it is pretty much safe to assume that around a quarter of the cars in Hawaii are from the mainland. By at least discouraging the personnel from importing their cars, through better public transportation like Skyline, it can drastically take thousands of tons of CO2 from the atmosphere and lower the carbon footprint of Hawaii's military presence, especially as Skyline at this point will be powered from 100% renewable energy rather than fossil fuels. Have you actually seen the Jeeps, Hummers, etc. roaming frequently like the military portrayed in the movies? Military installations like AMR, Aliamanu Military Reserve, and especially Fort Shafter have thousands of residents and employers that my proposed Skyline Salt Lake extension can encourage more ridership, especially as many of these people working these bases probably use their cars to get to work, and unlike what you think, are very walkable. Like, look at these pathways which can be added with stations like Alalilikoi, and more advertising from the military might make people rethink that free vehicle import in favor of the superior public transportation. Although it is difficult for the military to completely decarbonize, hundreds of EVs in a boat seem like a bomb, sustainable warfare. However, encouraging the personnel, especially the reserves, to take public transportation like Skyline will be a huge step in this front, as much of the US military's carbon emissions come from basic car trips to and from work. The military of the largest economy shall be resilient to any danger, and if it requires sustainability, it will be sustainable. This may lead to job losses, especially as many personnel in the military specifically have duties in things like importing cars, operating gas stations, but in the military where basic training, you can be easily transferred to different interdisciplinary positions like operating in-base bus services, or even if they are discharged, have lots of benefits like the VA program. Essentially, my expanded Salt Lake extension will drastically benefit the military, especially as many people will be encouraged to take public transportation instead of driving to their bases. You're probably saying, how much would this whole thing cost? The initially planned Salt Lake extension, according to the facts, that was 4% less expensive than the airport alignment, will make it $874 million. My proposal would make it around $1.1 billion if it's going to be the same cost as the airport alignment plus the lawsuits. If you came all the way here, thank you for watching my video on Skyline through Salt Lake. The Salt Lake extension is the last currently planned extension that I now covered, which means now that all potential long-term extensions of the Skyline are now covered in depth and more throughout the channel that without tapping into YouTube would have likely never happened, and pretty much all the content about Skyline would be pretty much about the same old things, like how expensive it was, or even to the extremes like how it was a failure. I've seen such videos generated by AI which speaks to the current timeline we are now in, one that I generally dislike about, especially knowing who is president right now. Some of you agree to the negative bias against Skyline, which you're planning to trash the comics section should you find something else to watch, or at least not do bogus threats against me. The fact that I had to discuss energy and climate change is because this video is also a school project about renewable energy transition and social equity, so please give me an A+ in the comment section. The next video will be discussing the North Shore to Alapai Transit Center rail line I proposed, and with the new editing software and the fact that I am planning to head to the North Shore to document it. And if you want to see it, you should like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when it comes out sometime this spring or summer. See you in the next video for some more planet transit.